Real world versus digital world. Now, many times that doesn't really hit the mark. You can have some things that resemble those in the real world and they're far off. And then you have some that are very, very complementary. So today we're going to talk about those things. If you're new here, thank you for joining the fun. Consider subscribing as we talk about design, apps, life, strategy, and all great things to improve our world. All right. So yeah, show some love. Looking at real world versus digital world, as UI designers, product designers, we've come across a lot of things relative to schematic or skeuomorphism design. And really, that is the concept of taking real world things and designing them to translate and be representative digitally. I know we've seen this scale over the years, going from telephone, how we used to use that, how that translated into icons. We've looked at it in calculators. We've even looked at it in navigation items such as menus, folders, expanding collapse. All of those things are representative from the real world. The goal is to mimic that representation so that your mental model matches what's in the real world. A lot of times that is done succinctly. Many times it misses the mark entirely. As long as you know the approach that you're willing to take and how these things can be reflective in real life, its use cases, its functionality, the purpose in which you're doing, you are better off than just trying to make a one-to-one match in the digital space. Now, the single tip I want to talk about in this video is learning how to translate real world designs into digital design. So one thing you want to do is actually refer to the real world thing. If you're struggling with expanding and collapsing menus or content sections, look at how it's done in the real world. Open a file cabinet. Look at how those folders are laid out, how they're shifted, how one would actually access that. Look at different menus. When you go to a restaurant, how menus are laid out. Just look at real world things so that your mental model matches something that could possibly move you towards designing it that way. It just takes a little bit of shift in your perspective in order to match those things. The second tip I'd like to bring up related to this is try to match your design aesthetic to the real thing. Now, I understand these are visual and aesthetic choices, so we want to be cognizant of your UI design. If there's a manila folder, sort of tan-ish folder that you've gotten and you've actually have in real life, maybe that color is suitable to translate a one-to-one. Or let's say your design aesthetic, that brand has shifted to something a bit more pastel or opaque. Try to design within those confines of the brand, but reflective of the actual physical item. And it'll push the needle and challenge you to design better and think of things like depth and scale that will improve your digital design over time. The last tip I'll say is actually use references. So online, whether you're doing Pinterest or Google search or anything like that, those things will help you if you haven't really seen it. Many users of SaaS platforms and systems that actually reference antiquated technology have a hard time grasping that concept. So for example, when telephones were sort of this rotary system where you pick it up, dial, that was reflective in the first phases, early internet. We still use those icons today as representative of that same ideology, making calls. We also know that there's FaceTime, there are video chats, there are things that have changed over time. And so your design model should reflect those changes as they progress. Now, looking at AI has changed the game, and it's allowed us to use technology and prompts, conversational prompts, to create different elements that can resemble the real world. that could actually be reflective of something very, very specific. Think of Blue Willow, Midjourney. All of these systems, these AI components, are here to help us shape the new direction of design. Use them to your advantage. And if you need references, there's a plethora out there to choose from. So those are my tips for today with translating real world design to digital design. I hope that helps you in some way. Feel free to give this video a like if you found value and share it with someone you know that could benefit from this content. Your life has color, so make sure to design it that way. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.